covering everything that you need to know in talent experience.
People applying for new positions is like the cherry on top.
With new technology to attract talent.
Recruiters always know their best talent.
The AI just wants to use that information.
Inclusion efforts across the organization.
Tell me what it's like to work through associate story.
Interviews with leaders in the industry. Talk about what's new in HR tech. What are the hot topics? We're here every week, folks. Weekly look at the latest and greatest topics in HR.
Welcome, everyone, to Talent Experience Live. This, of course, is covering everything that you need to know in HR talent acquisition and recruiting. We like to say around here, it is the greatest show on the internet, coming live to you every single Thursday, noon Eastern time. And I oftentimes like to say it is better than your favorite podcast, better than your favorite TV show. Right now, I am a sucker for Only Murders in the Building, but I can tell you what, this show is going to be better. I am your host, Devin Foster, and Talent Experience Live is proudly brought to you by the good team and the good folks here at Phenom, whose purpose is, of course, to help 1 billion people find the right job. That is not a typo. I did not misspeak. That's not 1 million, not 10 million, but 1 billion people. And we do this through our Talent Experience platform, which helps candidates find the right fit faster, employees evolve in their current role and beyond, recruiters achieve next level productivity and efficiency, and managers build better teams with the use of data analytics and automation. All of this, of course, is done with super slick AI and machine learning, which is powered by analytics. So I got a little ahead of myself there. If you're interested in learning more about Phenom, head on over to phenom.com. It just got a nice little facelift. You'll probably notice some changes. Great blogs on there, previous TXLs that you can always catch the recaps on. So phenom.com/blog or just phenom.com if you'd like to learn more. We have a great episode for you today on Talent Experience Live. Today we are talking about getting the most out of your HR tech. HR tech is fastly approaching around the corner. I'm sure tons of TA teams will be jumping out or jumping onto planes out to Vegas to see what is new in the industry. But first, you have to know what you already have, and then understanding where you can optimize from there. So great episode. But before we get into that, it is tradition around these parts to always kick off the show with a nice little fun icebreaker question. And since today we're talking about looking at what technology you may have and if it is time to buy new HR tech, we're going to stay in that same vein, but not necessarily with HR tech, because at the end of the day, that is a business decision, right? There are lots of stakeholders who will decide if a technology is right for you or if it is not. Today, the icebreaker question is, what is your next treat yourself purchase that you may be looking forward to do? This is one of my favorite episodes of Parks and Recreation for those folks out there who may be familiar with that Treat Yourself Day, where you just go out and pamper yourself a little bit. But this question is just around your next treat yourself purchase. It could be a new TV. Football is right around the corner. I know a lot of folks around the Philadelphia area are excited about watching their Eagles. So maybe it's that. Maybe it's time for some new work clothes, right? The temperature is beginning to drop a bit. We were all wearing sweatpants throughout the pandemic, and now we're all, slowly making our way back to the office. Perhaps you need some new work pants because you can't wear sweatpants to the office. For me, my treat yourself purchase is actually, I have a tattoo appointment coming up on September the 9th, which reminds me, I should probably request off for that day. I haven't done that yet. So Monica, if you're watching, I am going to request off September the 9th. But let me know in the comments section what your next treat yourself purchase is. And let's dive a bit more into today's topic. I mentioned today we are talking about evaluating your current HR tech and when it may be time to buy some new technology. Our guests today are talentEXP's own CEO and founder, Ed Newman, and VP of Growth, Amy I'm going to ask her how to pronounce her last name when she jumps on. We had such a good conversation before the show. I forgot to ask. So as soon as she hops on, I will ask because I don't want to butcher it. And they're going to share and evaluate how you can evaluate your current HR tech stack, identify must-haves for the futures, and what you need to fill short-term gaps or long-term gaps. I see the comments beginning to pour in for treat yourself purchases or treat yourself days. Jen says she wants to go for a massage. Jen, take the rest of the afternoon off. I'm sure that everything is handled. Go out for a massage. I see Andrea saying spa day. That sounds nice. Maybe you can link up with Jen. Go to the spa, have a mimosa, get a massage. Debbie says she just bought herself a brand new DSLR camera. That is awesome. You got to shoot footage all the time. Cameras are a great investment. Sarah says a new mattress for her birthday. Sleep is important. We all know that. Monica says spa day and a nap. Monica, look out for the Namely notification for my day off for my tattoo day. And Sarah chimes in and says that Jen deserves that massage. So definitely go get it. Carrie says a mani-pedi with dinner, of course. These are all great suggestions. Thank you so much for chiming in, everyone. If you're joining late, feel free to hop into the comment section and ask any questions for Ed or Amy. But without any further hesitation, let's bring them onto the show. Ed and Amy, welcome. How are you both?
Hello, excellent.
Hey there, Devin. Doing great.
Awesome. First things first, Amy, I forgot to ask you how to pronounce your last name, and I made a fool of myself on LinkedIn Live. So please.
You're not alone, my friend. You're not alone. It's a doozy. It's Schwenck.
Schwenck. I will never forget that from now till the end of time.
All consonants, one vowel. You know, you're not alone. You're not alone. I've heard multiple variations, some borderline offensive. So I'd rather you ask. You know, so I appreciate that.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for joining. Tradition around these parts, no one gets to join the show without answering the icebreaker question. So Amy, we'll start with you. Do you have a treat yourself purchase in mind for the coming months or maybe years?
I just did it. So I bought myself a new mountain bike. And I had been wanting a new mountain bike for years. I had not upgraded in a long time. And I just recently moved to a place that has phenomenal mountain biking right out my door. And so I bought myself a new mountain bike. So I guess the treat day would be to actually get out there and ride it for multiple hours. So, and then I might need a spa day with you ladies after that and a massage. But yeah, I already went out and did my treat purchase. So
That is awesome. A few things bring back childhood joy, like hopping on a bike. I moved to the city. I don't have a bike, but I still do like the little city bike rental, and I love it. It's fantastic. So that is a great treat yourself purchase. Ed, how about you? Any treat yourself purchase?
It's a timely question, Devin, because I am about to make a purchase. It's been a long time since I've taken time off to play golf. I used to be a fairly avid golfer. I enjoyed playing golf. I'm not a great golfer, but enjoyed playing, but haven't been out in quite a while. And I'm making a concerted effort to do it again. And I haven't purchased clubs in over 15 years. So I have very old tech and about to go to a Golf Galaxy to get fitted and the whole 9 yards, probably tomorrow afternoon.
woohoo.
That is awesome. And hopefully you'll get to break the clubs in Saturday. Do you have a tee time lined up?
Won't be Saturday, but I do have a golf trip planned with a couple of my brothers coming up in a couple months. So this is all to be prepared for that road trip.
Awesome. Well, that is exciting stuff. I loved hearing about treat yourself purchases and treat yourself days. But the people here are here to learn about when it is time to purchase or look into purchasing new HR tech. So Ed, I will start with you. First, you have to look at what you have, right? What are some tips or tricks for folks to evaluate what they have before they begin exploring new technologies?
Well, interesting you asked. I think from a business practice standpoint, companies should be constantly looking and evaluating what's coming. There's things are moving quite fast. I mean, the investment in tech in this space has been tremendous. And so one of the things that you have to sort of prepare yourself for is to be constantly looking to see what's out there. And I think I like to sort of break it down from almost like an investment portfolio perspective. If you think about your investment portfolio, you've got your long-term investments, things that you're just going to sort of ride, and then maybe some more shorter-term investments where you're speculating, and then maybe some experimentation. And I think the same kind of mindset for the HR tech space. Your HCMs that are running your payroll and human capital management. Those tend to be much longer term investments. Maybe some midterm. Maybe you've got some short term investments that are stopgap measures to fill some gaps. And then you should always be carving out some of your budget to experiment and look at what's coming down the pike. The other thing that is happening is there's so many point solutions. You have to start evaluating point solutions against what am I getting from my platform provider, and you may be surprised at what your platform provider is putting up on the roadmap, and it's something that you have to just constantly be looking at. What is that long-term roadmap and strategy for you? I'd say probably at least every 2 years a full tech stack review. And because usually you got investments that have maybe 3-year contracts on them, and so if you're doing it every 2 years, you're kind of evaluating where you're at and whether you've got some older legacy technology that you think you need to replace. So every 2 years, sort of a full review. I've seen some companies do it every year. It can be a little redundant that frequently. But if you have that mindset that you've got long-term investments, midterm investments, and then maybe some experimentation, I think it's a good way to approach it.
No, I love that. I think it's sorry, Devin. It's so similar to like the same mindset we have with always be recruiting, right? If you're always networking, always recruiting, having that funnel open and in a compelling way, it's the same thing with it's always be researching. Now, that doesn't need to be super overwhelming. Find a couple of members of your team that love to geek out on this stuff, that love to read the blogs, that love to just see what's out there. And then get together quarterly and kind of talk about it and see, to Ed's point, what's more of a longer term that you're really going to want to dive deep and really think about whether you need it or not versus something short term that you might be able to try out. So yeah, I love that approach, Ed.
I love it as well. And one thing that jumped out at me was evaluating what your systems may already have. And constantly, I just recently joined TikTok. I was late to the party, but I see all of these MacBook hacks and all of these iPhone hacks. And I'm like, I had no idea that this was even available. And then expanding on that a little bit more, when we sign up for our new phone, right, we evaluate phones before we go into the phone store and what we want to see and what new features we're looking to add. So I love all of that in comparing it towards a consumer angle of how you would make your own purchases. But I have to ask, the other thing that you mentioned, Ed, was constantly doing your research. And I work for an HR tech company. We are constantly pushing out new product updates and new fantastic technology. But when you're looking at it, Amy, to your point, it can be a bit overwhelming, right? It's a lot to do. So how do you identify what is truly a must-have when you are looking for new HR technology?
I love that because it all comes down to priorities, right? We can't do everything all at once, right? So we need to take a look at what the priorities are. And I would say it's unique today. And yes, we're seeing things at a scale and velocity that we haven't seen. I mean, I've been in this game for over 20 years. Ed's been just as longer. But there's a consistency that you need to enable proactivity. You need to enable the organization to go out and find talent. And something that I'm so happy to see finally happening is TA leaders having a proper seat at the table from an internal mobility standpoint too. So first, take a look at what you have. So I would say internal mobility tools, internal just knowledge of who your team is. So that's I think a must-have. It's moved into a must-have. Some folks may say that's next level. I think it's must-have. Other things, definitely compelling career site, right? Something that is going to be authentically your organization. And I'm just going to throw out a word. Don't bullshit on your website. Be true to what your organization is. Screen in the people that are culturally appropriate, right? Like that will like the vibe of your business, right? So be authentic. And of course, allow the ability for someone to drop off their information. Don't require them to apply. So compelling career site and that ability to tell you who they are and tell you that they're interested leads into CRM. So CRM, I mean, gosh, way back in the early 2000s, I put one in place on a Salesforce instance at Pfizer, and it was totally clunky and a pain in the butt to use, but it didn't really exist yet. Well, they exist now, people. Come on, let's do this, right? Recruiting is sales and marketing. It's not transactional HR. It's the most critical piece of your business. So you need to enable yourself with the tech to do it. So compelling career site, CRM, I'm looking at my list here so I don't miss anything. Sourcing tools. I mean, a CRM is only as good as the data that's in it and then what you do with it. And then I think my final point, I said the internal mobility, but it is that access to data. So you have to, I think from an experiential standpoint, integrations need to be tight. You need to have these systems talk to each other. Otherwise your adoption can fall down because when we say experience at talentEXP, and I know Phenom feels the same way, we are talking talent. We're talking candidates, applicants, recruiters, hiring managers, internal talent. We're talking all talent, right? It's not just any one audience. So those integrations and seamless experience are important. And then of course your ATS to transact. We all need that, but let's not think about that. So that's just going to be there. That's just a requirement no matter what.
Yeah, I think the CRM career site combo, the ability to do real marketing, that's sort of the pressing must have at this point, Devin. I remember when we first started talking about recruitment marketing, it was in 2006 timeframe, and from that point, everybody recognized that recruiting is marketing, and we need to take more of a marketing mindset. But for the most part, we were blasting jobs out to candidates. That's basically what recruitment marketing was. And we're finally at a point now where the tech enables to do real marketing, where we can personalize content, where we can create a digital experience that gets that employer brand messaging across in unique ways. And it's not just about blasting jobs. It's about culture. It's about commitment to things like sustainability and purpose and how it's all that attraction type capabilities. So that's by far the must. I think the other thing that I would point out is we are now at an age where we can really do some automating of previously tedious administrative tasks. That's something that we've been trying to do. I remember I wrote an article a long time ago, dating myself, called "The Myth of Automated Recruiting." It was back in the 90s when everyone was talking about automating recruiting with applicant tracking systems, and it didn't really exist. We still needed to do all the work of recruiting, and I think we're now entering an age where there's enough technology, investment in the technology, and the data available to really do some good automations to alleviate some of that manual tasking. And I think those are some things that are must-haves.
Yeah, absolutely. A few things that you both mentioned there, the fact that marketing, sales, and recruiting are almost all synonymous, right? In that sense, where you look at how to fill roles at an organization, and it's just like how to sell. You need to start with a funnel approach and start big and slowly go down. And Ed, to your point, automation is really the only way that you're going to be able to do that. But segueing from that, you can't get away from it in the news. Everyone is talking about the economy, right? And teams getting smaller. I know throughout the pandemic, recruitment teams were hit awfully hard, and they were streamlined to very, very bare minimum teams. I have to ask this question. Who needs the most help right now in the tight labor market from some of those must-have technologies? Would you say it's recruiters, hiring managers, TA folks? And Amy, we'll start with you.
It's funny, kind of my thoughts on that go to the point that you just made. I think that the first that need the help is, let's make sure that leadership understands the value of a recruitment function, and we never eliminate that function again. You're just going to be, while you're trying to recruit the staff you've laid off back, you're trying to recruit recruiters and compel your recruiting leader to pitch your organization. We've got to stop with trimming the recruitment team back to no capability out of fear and cost cutting. So I think leadership, and I feel like we're moving in the right direction with that. That leadership is getting that. I mean, and it's on us as TA professionals to continue to prove our value. But that's my first that I would say. But my real answer to this question is, assuming you've hired great recruiters and great, folks that this is their profession, TA managers and recruiters that have grit, they're going to figure out how to get it done. It's our job to make sure that we, reduce the barriers that they have to, break through to do it well, provide them with the technologies that we just mentioned. But I would say who probably is not getting enough attention is the hiring manager themselves. They don't do this all day long. This isn't their profession. You need to allow them the time to go do the job they were actually hired for. So I think that enabling them with training, with tech, with access to data, and of course, backing them up with a killer recruitment team that's only going to need to send them, less than one hand number of candidates for them to find their final person. So I would say hiring managers. Now, all you recruiters and TA leaders out there, don't get mad at me. I know y'all need help too. But I would say, if you think about as a recruiter, we used to make the joke, the job would be really easy if we just get hiring managers out of the way, right? So, well, let's address that. Let's actually figure out how to enable those hiring managers with the right knowledge, training, and tech. I mean, they need to see what they need in front of them very easy with a really slick UI.
I actually think you're spot on there, Amy. The hiring manager is sort of the next frontier. I mean, the early days of recruiting tech, it's all about recruiter efficiency, recruiter productivity. And it was, 2010 when we realized that, my gosh, we haven't been thinking about the candidate experience at all. And all of a sudden the last decade, it's been all about candidate experience, and including the employee experience has come a long way in that time as well. Haven't done much with the hiring manager. And I think if we really need to think about the experience holistically, and that hiring manager is a key stakeholder. And so I do think that that's really the next frontier to provide the tools and the plugins to your, whether it's your tech stack or a specific platform, to really allow the interactions between whether it's candidate, employee, recruiter, and manager to flow seamlessly. So once we add that hiring manager, I think we'll have that the full gamut in place.
Yeah, when you think about the candidate journey, right, the hiring manager is oftentimes the last person that they meet with before they're brought on, right? And Amy, I'm going to use a mountain biking example here. If you're going out for a 10-mile ride, oftentimes if you're on not the best bike, HR tech in this case, right, that last mile is going to be excruciatingly difficult because you're wobbly and all sorts of things. And when we apply that same thought process to the candidate journey, it's going to make things only tougher for not only the hiring manager, but also the candidate. And at the end of the day, that's who you're looking to put together in a happy relationship and have these folks work together. So very, very interesting stuff there. I think that the hiring managers need help as well, but we are still focusing on TA teams and recruitment. And one way that is constantly mentioned to help them out, Ed, you talked about it a little bit before, with an article that you mentioned around recruiter automation is a buzzword in the industry today, and that's artificial intelligence. So Ed, I'll ask you, in the scope of talent acquisition, what does AI mean, right? We're not talking about Allen Iverson here for anyone tuning in from Philadelphia. What does it mean in that sense?
Yeah, and it is by far the biggest buzzword we've got these days, and we do need to be careful in this area. I've heard some IT leaders or HR leaders, utter the phrase, "We need to buy some AI this year." We have to get on the AI. It's such a hot buzzword. I think we need to think about it a little bit differently. Artificial intelligence, AI, it's new tech, and it's becoming the price of admission for any type of solution in the market. So you're going to have technology platforms that are either smart or not smart, and the ones that are smart have some sort of AI built in the DNA, and that's what you're going to want to be looking for. Is it in the DNA of the product, or is it an old legacy tool that someone's trying to bolt something onto to try to make it intelligent? So that's the first thing. It's more about the price of admission. Let's not think about I need to go buy AI. Let's think about I need to solve some problems. And yeah, I want some smart solutions that are going to maybe be self-learning, get better over time, and so on and so forth. In TA, you want to be thinking it's things like helping a user through a process. So if I'm a candidate, serve up job recommendations to me based on what I have shown my interests to be, or based on any profile data that I've provided. Get me to what I'm looking for faster, right? That's where you're going to see AI from a candidate perspective. Recruiter, similar things. Prompt me when I've got a job that doesn't have enough applicants and that I need to go do some sourcing. It's technology that's going to help facilitate and help a user be more efficient through their processes based on the data that's running through the systems. That's kind of how I look at it.
Makes total sense. One thing that you mentioned there that kind of popped into my head, and I wanted to ask this. Whenever we talked about at the top of the show, splurge purchases, right? Treat yourself purchases. Have you ever been online and you've looked for something that you really want and it's sold out, right? They always offer you that opportunity to notify when it's reopened, right? Is a best practice in the industry to do that with talent communities is maybe keep some of those job postings up for a little bit longer, even though the role's filled, and you can say that it's filled, but hey, notify me, and build it out that way rather than joining just kind of a bland talent community, if you will. And I know a little bit off topic, but it popped into my head while we were talking about these experiences and everything like that. So I have to ask.
Well, it's of course, yeah. I mean, it's of course, yes. I mean, I think the concept of talent community is evolving, and from my perspective, it's very different than it used to be. Talent community used to be, give me your contact information before you drop out of this lengthy pain in the butt application flow, so that I at least have your email address and I can blast you jobs on occasion. I think capturing information on candidates, whether it's a talent community form, whether it's they're signing up for some sort of future job alert, gets them into your CRM or whatever technology that you're using. So what we have to do as an organization is determine how are we going to segment those individuals into audiences, and then tailor very specific messaging to those audiences based on what their interests are, what they've signed up for, and what a lot of organizations struggle with is that content strategy. How do I make sure that I am producing the content to engage that group? I've had some companies decide that they want to put a hold on even opening up talent community because they're not ready to start communicating with them yet. I think it's key to if you're going to collect the contacts for a talent community, make sure you have a plan to keep them engaged. Otherwise, they're not sure why they signed up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's super.
Next,
don't set the expectation you're going to communicate unless you're going to fulfill it. I mean, that's all the candidate experience research and studies show, is that they just want to know where they stand and they want to follow through, right? Even if the news is bad. So yeah, I completely agree with you, Ed. And I agree with organizations that might decide to not start promising that until they're ready. You got to be ready for it. You have to have a plan.
And no one likes to be ghosted, no matter what the scenario may be. The next question that I have, we talked about the candidate journey there. And one thing that I always encourage recruiters or TA folks to do is to go back through their application process, right? Everyone kind of forgets that part once they start a job, and see where potential gaps may be. So that's one way that I love to suggest that. But Amy, are there any other ways to explore your existing technology for gaps? And that way you can kind of set your mind on what to look for as you explore new technologies?
Absolutely. So, I mean, there's so many resources out there, right? There's a lot of experts, there's a lot of podcasts, there's a lot of resources that you can use. But I would say start with your team and your peer network. So going back to, when we talked about the must-haves, if you don't have all of what we mentioned, prioritizing that, the career site and CRM piece, probably you have gaps. So you already know that, right? So talk to your recruiters and talk to them about their experience, pulse your hiring managers and their experience, and engage your partner and vendor. Talk to them about what else they have that you might not know about. So first identify those gaps. And when I go back to peer network, let me add a part to that. A lot of people have a lot of opinions. So, if you go out to your peer network and they highly recommend a piece of technology, I would encourage you to dive really deep into that conversation and question why that technology, why that change, because sometimes it's not, no organization's the same. So it might not be the right tech for you, or they might have some biases. So just dive deep. It's the same thing we would do with a candidate. Why do you refer Joe Smith? Well, he showed very strengths in this area, and weaknesses here. Oh gosh, okay, he's great for your org, not mine. So tap your team to find out what those are. And of course, so your team, your peer network, and then if you're on Phenom, and really any tech, go to your account manager, go to your CSM, make sure that you're tapping into your vendor. And in Phenom's case, I'm just going to say it, you can also reach out to talentEXP.
Yeah. And I'd say one caveat here, because you definitely can get a lot from the peer network, and there's best practices being published all the time. Go to HR Tech, walk the floor. That's usually a pretty big showcase of just about everything that's in the industry. But one thing you want to be careful of is just getting enamored with a best practice somewhere, because an adage that I use all the time, I get asked, hey, can you share some best practices with us? And I always do it with this caveat. One company's best practice, it could be another company's worst nightmare. So you want to make sure that you're coming up with your best practice. What's best for your situation, for your culture. There could be compliance issues that some companies have that other companies don't. And that's one of the things I've learned over the years is I have some really good ideas on what's best practice. May not work in all situations. So just be selective about what you dive into, and make sure that it's aligned with what's right for your company.
Yeah, you have to identify the skills and capabilities within your team, right? We look at, I'm going to use a sports analogy, so I apologize, but we look at a team like the Golden State Warriors, who shoots a ton of threes all the time. If I'm losing anybody at home, they shoot a lot of threes. But you can't apply that to the 76ers or another team that may not. And the same thing applies to best practices, right? If you have someone who's fantastic at crafting up email campaigns and builds it out for your entire team, but you don't have that same person at another organization, it may not be as successful, right? So you really have to look at that. One thing that you both mentioned throughout the program is partnerships. And I think this is one of the questions, Ed, you talked about walking the floor of HR Tech. How important is it to ask about integrations and what capabilities are of connecting those HCMs or ATSs that you mentioned with a CRM or with a career site? And how do you ask it in a way where somebody just doesn't say, oh yeah, we integrate with them, on to the next question?
That's this. We could probably spend an entire show on this one, Devin. Integrations are absolutely paramount today, and I just can tell you that Amy talked about one of the first CRMs that she did was with Salesforce, and that certainly there was several companies that started using Salesforce as a CRM, and the early CRMs all standalone systems. They were better at certain things than an applicant tracking system. Everybody hates their applicant tracking system, probably still do. But if it's not integrated and it's standalone, it will atrophy because you don't have visibility into what might be happening with a candidate. And if you try to keep them in sync manually, it eventually will fall out. So having integration and a clear depiction of data flows and where's the source of truth for any particular data element is so paramount. And this is unfortunately, you have to do the work. You can't rely on the vendor to tell you they'll tell you that they have integrations. Oh yeah, we can integrate with this, we can integrate with that. And that is, probably the case because software companies know that they have to have these integrations. You need to make sure that you have a clear plan for what you need to integrate and how data flows through your organization. So it does require that work to be certain. Certainly the vendor, you want to make sure vendors have partnerships with maybe the other products and solutions. That's very important because if there is a partnership and a relationship there, then you know that there's going to be some collaboration. If there isn't a partnership there, then it doesn't mean you can't integrate. It's just going to be a little bit more work on your part to make sure that the two organizations work together to get the data to flow. There's also, third-party organizations that will be able to set up integrations maybe with two different systems where there isn't a partnership. So could be, different directions that you go in depending on your circumstances. So, but you do have to do the work on your end to determine how does the data need to flow, and then set out on your strategy for integrations. But if you don't have them, it's hard to make it all work. Standalone, not a good idea.
It makes total sense. Amy, did you have anything to add?
Nope.
No, all right. No worries. I thought I heard you for a second, so I apologize. Coming close to wrapping up here, I have to ask this question to you, Amy. Obviously, you folks consult with a number of organizations. Is there a trend of recent challenges that the companies are really focusing on trying to fill those gaps?
Yeah, absolutely. So things that we commonly see as challenges that folks will come to us for assistance with is number one, the implementation and making sure that if you've selected a piece of technology, you can actually get it in place on time and on budget and with the right level of expertise to get it right the first time. So that's a big piece. That's a big challenge that organizations are facing. They're like, wow, we have this great new technology we're bringing in, but we have the expertise and resources in-house to actually get it done, to actually fulfill on this beautiful thing that we've, been shown during the sales cycle. So we come in and assist with that a lot. And even before that, it's kind of designing that end-to-end talent experience. Everyone wants to do it, but organizations sometimes, we got a lot on our plates, and a lot of it just get the job done, just fill the jobs. Well, if we take a step back and really take a design approach, that's just going to help everything in the long end. So we can come in and help with that too. And then, prioritizing the data. Everyone's all about data and reporting, but ensuring that we take time to think about what really matters to the organization and what's really going to drive outcomes and not just data for sake of data. So we do a lot of advising on process optimization to make sure you're tracking the right data points to then actually get great information out of the system so that you can do some more educated hiring, basically.
Yeah, and along those lines, it's like you don't necessarily need to reinvent your processes, but you definitely want to avoid just sort of lifting and shifting what you've always done in the past onto whatever new technology you're putting in place. You really need to concentrate on aligning it so that this is, again, another old adage. You want to set it up so that your people will use the tools to get their job done, And then the byproduct is all the data you need is captured and available for reporting and analytics. You want to, I always say build for utility first, compliance second, because if you build for compliance first and it's not very useful, you're not going to be compliant because people will not use it. So utility first, compliance second. They use the tool to get the job done and your data flows out. That's the goal.
That makes total sense. Amy, obviously you're working with organizations, across the globe. When can teams identify when it's time to reach out to talentEXP? And if they want to, where can they learn more about what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Much like Phenom and your beautiful new website, we're going through a bit of a refresh ourselves. We will have a new site in September. However, right now you can still go to the site and learn some stuff about us, hopefully on top of what we've shared with you today. And then you can reach out. I mean, we love this stuff. Hopefully that's coming through in this. I mean, we love this stuff. We've been in the space for a very long time. Love to talk to anyone that just wants to brainstorm through their current challenges and what to do next. We have no problem with hopping on the phone and doing, even like an hour of consulting with an organization. Doesn't mean that there's any dollars that has to come into that right out of the gate, right? So contact us on the website, find us on LinkedIn. I know my last name's a little funky, but it's been on screen for a while. So write it down so you can find me on LinkedIn. Ed's more straightforward, or just go to the talentEXP LinkedIn page and you'll see both of us there. So you can reach out. We're both first dot last at talentEXP, and we will be at HR Tech.
Awesome. And upcoming webinar, right?
That's right. Yes, we do.
Can the folks sign up for the upcoming webinar that you're doing on talentEXP? Can they sign up at Phenom? I'm not on it. I'm a little offended, but it is what it is.
Oh my gosh. Well, I don't know. After today, maybe we need to be. I don't know. This has been fun. Kind of want you there. Mm-hmm. It's going to be on August 31st. And we actually just went live with the link for folks to register. So there was an email that went out to I believe from Phenom yesterday, but we will have the link on our site as well within a matter of a few days. And I believe it'll be on the Phenom site as well. So keep an eye out for that.
Yeah. And Amy or Andreas is awesome. Amy, thank you so much. Last question before we hop off. I think it's a little bit of a fun question that I want to ask both of you. I'll start with you, Ed. What are you most excited for the future of HR Tech, right? In general, I know the event is fast approaching HR Tech itself, but is there a certain conversation that's happening that you're most excited for a piece of technology?
It's funny because when I first thought about that question, I'm old. I've been in the industry a long time. I'm exhausted by this industry, but I could tell you that probably the thing that excites me most is how much of a shift we've seen on the internal mobility employee experience side. It's been something that I've preached about since literally like 1992, Devin, and how poorly we addressed our internal employees' career movement, and how do we help advance our company and through moving people into new roles. We spent all of our focus on how do we attract and bring in external talent, very, very little on internal. Preached about it. And really in the last 5 years, we've started to see some pretty significant movement, and companies are really starting to invest in this area. And because of that, the tech is evolving as well. So really excited to see that, because it's such an important part of the total ecosystem. If you're only doing external, you could have that revolving door, and you're not getting anywhere very fast. So that's really the thing that I'm pumped about the most.
Awesome. And Brian says he's old and exhausted too. Amy, how about you? What are you most excited for?
No, I couldn't agree more. This has been something that TA leaders have been, I think I mentioned it earlier, fighting for a seat at the table at for so long. And it's so exciting to see the tech coming along and making that happen. I think, it's perhaps one of the few good things to come out of COVID. We really needed to look inward. Right. And so I think that that's helped push this forward, and tech has been fast to respond to that need. And hopefully that will help us scale and get better at tapping into our own internal talent.
And I was watching a live stream yesterday. I think it was Candidate or Career Crossroads. I didn't write it down. I apologize. But they had an analyst, Sarah White, on, and they were talking about how talent management. Yes, Career Crossroads. Excuse me. They were finally talking about talent management finally has a seat at the table. It's finally something that people are talking about, and it's exciting. I mean, myself, I'm a boomerang employee, right? The fact that that is no longer taboo, that I don't have to come back to a company with my tail between my legs, being like, oh, it didn't work out. People are accepting this and they want to grow with organizations long term. So I'm excited for it as well. I know we're doing some employee experience stuff here at Phenom.
A little bit.
So definitely check out the course. Shameless plug. That's what we're here for. But I want to thank you both so much for joining me today on Talent Experience Live. I'll give you both an opportunity. Any final thoughts? We'll start with you, Amy.
Come see us at HR Tech if you're going to be there. We'll probably be hanging out a lot around the Phenom booth. But if you follow either Ed or I would actually recommend both. We'll also probably be posting and sharing where we're at, and hopefully we'll see you there. So follow us on LinkedIn.
Yeah, same comment. Look forward to seeing some old friends at HR Tech and make some new friends. So look us up, find us, reach out at any time. We, as Amy suggested, we do enjoy to engage in discussions in the industry. So we're wide open to that. Look forward to seeing you. And if you bump into Debbie Amolsch out there, make sure you don't sit at a poker table with you. She'll clean you out. Right, Deb?
And Debbie's on, so she's here.
She is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great advice. I will stay away from the poker table in general. But thank you both. I look forward to seeing you out at HR Tech, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend and have a great time picking out golf clubs and enjoying your new mountain bike.
Thank you. One last thing that I just noticed, Sarah Williamson did post the registration link for the there we go, for the event, the webinar that we have on the 31st. So feel free to sign up there as well. And Devin, thank you so much for having us. Really appreciate it. And this was fun. Let's do this again.
Yeah. Absolutely. We're going to be live from HR Tech in Vegas. So when you guys stop by the booth, we could always just turn the cameras on. Just let me know. All right. We'll see you soon. All right. Have a good one.
Thanks, Devin.
There you have it. That was evaluating your existing HR tech. Lots of great information within there. Everything from looking at CRMs and how they have to have tight integrations to, the future of talent acquisition and talent management, and how so many people are focused on career pathing and employees, as well as some advice for HR tech to stay away from Debbie at the poker table. I want to thank everyone for chiming in. We had a great audience today. If you missed any of the episode, it is going to be replaying on LinkedIn. You can also catch it on YouTube, or we always do a fantastic blog right up the following week. So definitely check out that at phenom.com/blog. I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. Special shout out to Brian, Andrea, Jen, Carrie, John Harrington for calling me during the show, Debbie, Sarah, Monica, Jen, everyone in between. Thank you so much. We couldn't do this without you, the audience at home. And a special thank you to Amy and Ed and the good folks over at talentEXP. I hope everyone has a great weekend, and we'll see you soon.